is a team that when even they're slightly good, they're super relevant. And we've talked to kind of both sides of the coin in terms of like the Brooklyn Nets, Nick Fay who covers them, and Sweeney Pooh who covers the New York Knicks. It's the consistency seems to be that the Knicks run New York. And it's going to be that way even if Nets can win 10 championships. It doesn't matter. So the question is, in terms of the Knicks, what is going to be their playoff seeding this year? Do you think Julius Randle, do you think that was an aberration in terms of what we saw from him last year in the regular season? Or do you think the real Julius Randle is what we saw in the playoffs, in which we saw a drop-off? So do you think that's going to affect their seeding? What do you make of the Knicks this year? Do you see them taking the next step forward, or do you think they're going to regress? Alan, we'll start with you with this one.
So I would love for the Knicks to be a lot better, and I would love for it to be due to Quentin Grimes. I'm a Cougar alum, so I'm watching Quentin and Deke in Indiana. Really happy to hopefully see what they can do. Monty in Houston, and then Nate in Dallas. But I don't think they're going to be better. I think it was such a weird season. I can't even describe what that team was last year. It was such a weird old school team that I think they surprised some people here. I think the East was weak in some areas, not at the top, but around that fourth seed area. I don't know. I just don't see it. I think they'll be anywhere between the 6 and the 10 is where I would peg the Knicks.
Yeah, I thought they kind of had the element of surprise in an odd year. That's kind of what I was thinking too. Empty arenas, and probably just caught some teams off guard who weren't expecting it or didn't scout appropriately, or so I would imagine they won't be overlooked as much this year. And then maybe once in the playoffs, once they're properly scouted and you could exploit weaknesses and dig in on them. So, but it is good for the league when the Knicks do better. I feel like it just kind of stokes the whole association a little bit. It's pretty, I remember as a kid, those teams were fun, a lot of fun. So.
Yeah, for sure. I think the Knicks are going to be the same or around the same. And I think what'll happen is Philadelphia might fall down below them. Now it's going to take, of course, like a lot of hustle and effort from a Tom Thibodeau coach team, get those extra regular season wins that maybe other teams aren't pushing as hard for. So I have the 76ers coming down beneath them potentially, but the Hawks I have being better this year with a young core there that I think is just going to get better. So I have the Hawks kind of leapfrogging them. They were the 5 seed just underneath the Knicks, as you guys remember. So I think they're going to be better than the Knicks and be potentially, I guess, a top 3 seed if I'm picking them the same. Wouldn't shock me if Alan's right about them falling 6 to 10 though.
Is the upside
go ahead and pick same?
Is the upside of the Knicks? I mean, we talked to Sweeney Pooh, and he covers the Strickland. They cover the Knicks exclusively, and he was saying he feels pretty optimistic about the young talents. So, is there a situation in which they regress, but they have so much young talent compared to in the past, in which they were known for taking all these free agents that were way past their prime, that there might be a sense of optimism, even though they might take like a step back? Is it kind of the long-term play that, it might progress in the future, even though this year may not be the leap that they might be expecting?
Yeah, I think that's fair, Justin. my wife with the whole RJ Barrett, Zion Williamson thing, she is on the RJ Barrett team. She has said over and over again that 5 years down the line, he's going to be the better player. And so I think they can regress, but I think RJ could still have a really good year and help keep them in the playoffs. I think his development is key. I worry that developing under Tibbs is turning him into a Jimmy Butler player, which I don't know that he is, when he probably needs to be more in the like the Allen Houston kind of arena if you're going for famous Knicks. So that's my take on that.
So next, I want to kind of ask the inverse of my last question. So which team that made the playoffs, and we can go ahead and count play-in game if you guys want, but which team that made the playoffs in 2021 is most likely to be a lottery team in 2022? Josh, let's start with you.
Yeah, I thought the Wizards and Knicks came to mind immediately. The Knicks just because historically they're not consistent. And then the Wizards just seem to be stuck not knowing necessarily what to do. So, yeah.
Alan,
Yeah.
go for it.
I'm on the Wizards bandwagon there. And that's like the opposite bandwagon. But yeah, I think, I mean, Russ was the reason they even were competitive last year. And and getting back Kuzma and what was it, KCP and a couple of other fringe guys. I mean, yikes! That team has zero identity. I don't know what they're doing or where they're going.
Yeah.
This is a question for all three y'all. Why do you think Kyle Kuzma is so hyped? I've never understood that. Can anybody explain?
Is that he scored on the Lakers?
Okay, I just never.
A year where the Lakers were bad, he put up points.
I just never. I mean, he has a cool look to him. I mean, he dresses well, so he has a cool Instagram page. But I don't know how that transfers to him being a great, like, actual NBA player. But
like Matt said, pre-LeBron, he was the one putting up kind of the only name, right? A little bit of Lonzo for a hot minute there.
Yeah, it was kind of a hot garbage team for sure. Yeah. Justin, go ahead. Give us your answer for most likely team to fall out of the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with the panel here. The Wizards. It's a bummer because I like Bradley Beal, and I think that is going to be the ultimate question. What happens with him? Because clearly he's an elite player in this league, and it just seems like with the Wizards, with the franchise itself, I just feel like it's stuck. It's unfortunate, just because it isn't a pretty great media market, but I just feel like they're never going to get past a certain threshold. So I'm curious to see what Bradley Beal's patience is going to be this season in terms of his comments to the media. So we'll have to check in with either Ava Wallace, who we had on, or Dave Zirin, just to see what the vibe is there with Bradley Beal. So
all my Nuggets friends are just praying to every god under the sun for Bradley Beal. They feel like he's the missing pice over there.
Interesting.
I like that.
Yeah, that's all they talk about is like that guy will finish it for us. So those are my Nuggets fans.
I'm going to push against all three of you, and you guys can take me down after this. But I like the Wizards. I think they won the Russ trade. I think they had Russ. They had Russ and they had Beal, and they had like no bodies really to put next to them. They got some bodies. Now, granted, they may be more nobodies than somebodies, but they got some guys who can play a little bit better minutes. If Dinwiddie is what he was with the Nets when he's healthy, and that is an if, I'll definitely acknowledge that. I do think he could pair better with Bradley Beal than Russ did. Now, they might miss that kick in the ass that Russ gave them that kind of willed them to the playoffs, as you guys were saying. But I think in terms of like making Beal shine and keeping Beal a little bit happier, of course, the wins have to come with it, but I think it's a much better pairing in that backcourt. I also wrote down, just to give a different answer real quick, and then we can move on. Portland. I'm curious if there's going to be burnout. Like, I love Dame. I just wonder if there's going to be burnout. I know they have Billups as the new coach. I think he's actually going to be a really smart coach and have some ideas. But I do wonder if Dame is just going to be tired this year of carrying the team for so long. And then also the Clippers. I mean, I don't think they'll fall out of the playoffs, but I mean, we know that Kawhi's out, so they're going to take a drop. We'll see. I mean, be pretty simple. I would have to think for them to still make the play-in tournament.
So you think Portland will miss the playoffs? Like the play-in game, or do you think like they're not going to be in the play-in tournament?
I guess if I could get away with the technicality of the play-in game, I don't know if that counts or not. Then maybe. But yeah, I mean, I think they'll be in the playing game.
Would they
All right.
fire
All right,
Chauncey? I'm going down this rabbit hole. I mean, would they fire Chauncey if that happens?
I don't
mean,
think so. I
Okay.
don't think so after this first year.
Gotcha. Okay, that seems like a massive drop off. I mean,
We'll see. I mean, of course, a lot could happen. We
Okay.
still, at least at the time of this recording, Ben Simmons hasn't been dealt. They're one of the teams that constantly gets brought up. You know, that's a mess. We could talk about that all later if you guys want. But Justin, you got the next question for us.
That's you. That you open Pandora's box.
Uh-oh. I'm sorry, guys.